One of the greatest feuds to grace the fantasy community in the last 2 decades is the debate as to who would win, Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings or the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister from A Song of Ice and Fire. As this topic has been covered ad nauseum, I won't even throw my hat into the ring to discuss who I think would win, other than I think it's pretty obvious. However, as modern audiences become more acquainted with the Wheel of Time, I have come to wonder, who would win in a fight, Aragorn, the true king of Arnor and Gondor, or the last king of the Malkieri, Alan Mandragoran? In today's video, I will be pitting these two characters against each other. Please let me know in the comments down below who you think would win. For the sake of this video, I will be looking at both characters at their peaks within the books. Ultimately, I will be looking at the versions of each character that we know best from their time on the page and not in some secondary material, television show, or movie. But first, let's start with a little background. Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and widely known as Strider, was born on March 1st, 2931 of the Third Age, in the far north of Middle-earth, in the wild and remote and forested land known as Eriador. Born to Arathorn and Gilrain, Aragorn was kin to the people known as the Rangers of the North, a band of somewhat nomadic people who lived to protect Eriador and the lands of Middle-earth from orc incursions. Unknown to many in Middle-earth, and even some of the Rangers themselves, the Rangers were the last remnants of the Dunedain, the ruling people of the Kingdom of Arnor. Tracing their lineage all the way back to ancient Numenor and beyond, Aragorn was the final descendant of Isildur, Sauron's bane, and was of the House of Elros, one of 2 half-elven houses in Middle-earth. Back in the Second Age, Elros with his brother Elrond, having been born half-elf, were given the choice by the Valar to pick a single lineage. Elrond chose to remain an elf and was granted immortality, but Elros chose to become human. With this choice, the Valar granted Elros a lifespan surpassing far beyond that of any normal human, a trait he would pass down to all of his descendants, including Aragorn. At the age of 2, Arathorn would be slain during an orc raid, and Aragorn would be sent to the elven city of Rivendell to be fostered. His true heritage was kept secret until the age of 16. In this time, Aragorn would be taught the ways of the elves, and at 20, Aragorn would leave Rivendell and return to Eriador to take his place as the 16th chieftain of the Dunedain. There, he would hone his skills as a ruler and a warrior. In 2956 of the Third Age, Aragorn would meet Gandalf the Grey, and his story would flow into the one we know from The Lord of the Rings. Within the story, Aragorn would find himself yet again in Rivendell. There, Elrond would present Aragorn with the reforged shards of Narsil, the legendary sword that Isildur used to cut the ring from Sauron's hand. Aragorn would rename the sword Andruil, Flame of the West, and carry it until his death at the age of 210. And now, on to Lan. In the final days of the great kingdom of Malkier, Alan Mandragoran would be born to King Alakir and Queen Eliana. Their only son and heir to the Malkieri throne, Lan never knew his country, as in the year of his birth, Malkier was betrayed and fell to the shadow. The king and queen, knowing their days were numbered, sent their son with a band of 20 of Malkieri's best to the neighboring kingdom of Shinar. With Lan in tow, only 5 survived, and it was revealed that before their departure, King Alakir bestowed upon Lan the great power-wrought blade of the Malkieri kings, and, with his wife, spoke the ancient oaths and crowned him Daishane, the battle lord of Malkier. In this, Alakir abdicated his throne to Lan, making him the last king of the Malkieri. Lan would be raised in the great city of Falmoran under the teachings of his 5 remaining subjects. It was known in all of the Westlands that there were no sword fighters better than the Malkieri, and so Lan was taught in their ways and worked tirelessly in his youth to become the greatest swordsman in all of the Westlands, and possibly the world. Alongside his training with the blade, Lan was also taught the way of the flame and the void. a type of transcendental meditation in which one can achieve true focus on a single task. In the void, one can feed all their thoughts and emotions into the flame until their mind is empty, resulting in improved reflexes and lack of hesitation. When Lan reached his 16th year, he was adorned with the traditional Malkieri Hedori, signifying his transition into adulthood and marking him as one of the final vestiges of the once great kingdom. On this day, he swore to stand against the shadow so long as iron is hard and stone abides, to defend the Malkieri while one drop of blood remains, and to avenge what cannot be defended. And so Lan began his quest to fight the shadow and all evil found in the world. For 10 years, Lan would roam the Westlands looking to lend his hand to those in need and to fight the shadow at every turn. At 26, he would meet a young Aes Sedai, Moraine Damodred of the Blue Aja. Not initially trusting her, Lan would come to see that Moraine's quest to find and guide the prophesized Dragon Reborn was the ultimate means to protect the world from evil, and allowed her to bond him as her warder, and pledged to serve her as her guardian and protector. As a warder, Lan was bestowed with new abilities and strength. Now being tangentially connected to Saidar, the female half of the One Power, Lan gained improved stamina. His senses sharpened, and his overall strength improved beyond that of any normal man. He would heal faster, and his body would be more resistant to injury. He was now able to detect shadow spawn at a distance and could go for days without needing rest. These abilities, coupled with his rigorous training and sheer determination, led Lan to become one of the greatest sword fighters in the world. As you can see, there are many similarities between the two characters. Both are the last kings and heirs to their respective lands. Both were fostered at a young age and trained for most of their lives. Both were trained in the ways of their people, but also trained in the ways of their foster lands, and in the end returned to their old ways and worked to protect their worlds and the people within them from danger. Each man has enhanced abilities and extended lifespans, and both are widely regarded as some of the best fighters in their respected worlds. When we meet Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings, he is 87 years old. However, as Aragorn would live to be 210, he is closer to his 40s. Lan, similarly, is 47 years old, but has been living as a warder for the last 18 years, which has slowed his aging substantially. Overall, both men show great physical prowess. We don't have a definitive answer on the ultimate strength of each man, but based on the text, we know that they have improved durability, stamina, and are far stronger than normal men. Aragorn is seen running long distances with little to no sleep, and being able to handle himself against armies of orcs, such as in the Battle of Helm's Deep. In a similar vein, we see that Lan can work on little sleep, and has shown himself to be able to stand against armies of Trollocs, without tiring and without taking any major wounds. Although I feel that Lan is stronger overall due to his warder bond, there isn't any specific evidence in the text that puts him above Aragorn. I couldn't find an instance where Lan survives a wound that Aragorn would die from, or vice versa, and so for strength, I believe the two to be equally matched. Both Aragorn and Lan wield legendary weapons. Aragorn holds Andúril, which was the only sword capable of harming Sauron. Lan wields a power-wrought blade that never dulls and has been passed down by the Malkieri kings for centuries. However, unlike Cuendillar in the Wheel of Time, power-wrought blades are not truly indestructible, and in the years after the War of Power, many power-wrought weapons were destroyed. Andúril, on the other hand, was in fact destroyed when it was Narsil, but this was after cleaving the One Ring, the most powerful object in Middle-earth, from Sauron's hand. Overall, Lan's blade is much more slender and lighter than Aragorn's. The swords in the Wheel of Time much more closely resemble the Japanese katana, being long, curved, and sharp on only one side. This allows them to be light and nimble, giving the wielder much more control than swords found in medieval Europe. By all accounts, Anduril most closely resembles a normal longsword meant for single-handed combat, being long, straight, and sharp on both sides. Although heavier than Lan's sword, Anduril is made of elven steel, which is reported to be much lighter than regular steel. I believe that if these two came to blows, Lan's sword would have the slightest advantage over Aragorn's, as his has never broken. Although Anduril does have some supernatural qualities to it, in the end it is a steel sword. The blade on Lan's sword never dulls, and the magic that binds it together hasn't faltered for nearly 3,000 years. Based on my reading, I believe that Anduril can dull, and after repeated slashing, Lan may be victorious in breaking the blade once again. Both characters exhibit incredible skill with their respective weapons. Aragorn holds himself against vast armies of orcs, and Lan holds himself against Trollocs. Aragorn was raised in Rivendell, and he was taught the ways of elven swordsmanship, but did not dedicate himself totally to battle. Lan, on the other hand, was nearly singularly trained in combat, every day for over 10 years, and works constantly to improve his skill. Lan also knows the way of the flame and the void, which allows him to enter a state of complete focus devoid of emotion, fear, or hesitation. Aragorn, although a great sword fighter, is strongest in his ability to lead people and unite them under a single banner. His mind has been honed not only to wield a blade, but also an army on the battlefield. He shows compassion to those around him, bringing out their best qualities and utilizing them to fight Sauron. Overall, I think, to the surprise of many, that Lan would win in a fight against Aragorn. In the end, it comes down to his skill and his use of the flame and the void. Although Aragorn is masterful at slaying orcs, Lan fights men and monsters alike. In the face of an enemy, Lan has one goal, and achieves this through calm focus and fluid sword form. I don't believe there is a single scenario where either of these men would come to blows. Clearly, Robert Jordan used Aragorn as the blueprint for Lan, but over the course of the Wheel of Time, he grew to become his own fleshed-out and unique character. Both men would be allies if they were ever to meet, but in this hypothetical situation, I think Lan would be the victor. But these are just my thoughts. What do you think? Did I get anything wrong? Did I miss something? Make your case in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more videos. I'm Win, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, bye.